And good afternoon. Welcome to Steel News. I'm Vandersteel. Paul Bondar, he is a husband, a father, a successful businessman, and a Texan running to represent Texas's 32nd congressional district in the United States House of Representatives. Rooted in his faith, his family, and a deep belief that service comes before self, how novel, Paul brings real-world leadership, not politics, to the fight for stronger communities and a stronger nation. His life and business taught him accountability, problem solving, and the value of hard work, while his family legacy of service instilled in him the conviction that leadership should be grounded in responsibility, integrity, and unwavering commitment to the people he serves. Joining me now is Paul Bondar. He is running for, like I said, Texas Congressional District 32. Paul, it is great to be with you. Thanks for taking the time today. You are all over the media right now, and you're making a storm as you barnstorm Texas. How's the campaign going?
Well, Ann, I'm so pleased to be on your show. It's an honor for me to be here, but this race is really not about me. This race, the reason I'm in the media so much right now is this is a race of a systemic problem, which is called dark money. And as I got involved in this race, I understood that the idea of us having free and fair elections is just a facade. It really is. And I'm blowing the whistle on not just my race specifically, because it's not just isolated to my race. It's tech bros that put roulette chips all over the board to try to be able to influence races. It's George Soros 2.0. It's being done in CD32. It's being done across the board in a number of other races. So when you have these candidates that look like American First candidates that look so amazing, I will just tell you that sometimes behind a shiny wrapper is not exactly the best candidate.
Wow. Well, you know what? I don't hear a lot of candidates open up talking about the race the way you just did. I think it's a really novel approach. Frankly, it's refreshing. You have certainly set the tone, and I think that's probably going to shake a few boots in DC because they love the dark money, as does our economic system. The financial system uses dark money and dark pools to fabricate stocks, shares, and basically take the real investor to the woodshed. But it sounds to me like you're going to take the politicos to the woodshed if you come into Congress and start facilitating some real leadership, servant leadership in Texas. So I want to start with some of the issues because your website is beautiful, by the way. Hats off to who built that. But you very clearly articulate the key issues for you. I'm going to start with economies and jobs because Texas is really in the top 8 for economies around the world right now. So tell me where you can lend a hand into the economic outlook for Texas.
Well, it's time that we put our American citizens first. It's time that we put Texans first. And by that, I'm talking about let's make sure the borders stay closed. Let's eliminate the H-1B visas. Let's make sure that we empower the trades. Far too long, we've been fed this baloney that everybody needs a college education. I have several degrees. I was a magna cum laude, all the different designations. I graduated playing Division I football in 3 years with my undergrad. All good things. College is great, rah, rah, rah. But you know what? There's a place for everybody, and not everybody should be in the same place. And while kids are being subjected to slavery with big school loans, and then we're economically burdening these kids that turn into socialists because they want these loans to be forgiven, we have to have a hierarchy in this where we divide our labor pool effectively so that we cover the different bases of essential labor. And by that, Ann, I mean we need to have an investment in the trades. Anybody that can look down the future can see AI is going to be taking over a lot of white collar jobs, but AI is not going to be able to put on a roof for somebody or fix a water heater or be able to repair a furnace. And so the folks in Texas, Texas is about independence, and it's about having our labor force remain independent with good skilled workers, made in America, American workers, and being able to do that through the educational system to pivot so that we're all not competing for white collar jobs and we have essential workers that we need.
That's fantastic. How do you intend to facilitate the growth of trade schools? This is something President Trump talked about in his first administration. And then, of course, he was talking about the disintegration or the disbandment of the Department of Education. And we haven't seen that happen yet. So how do you plan to, are you going to be using some of the state funds that go to the other higher institutions to facilitate the growth and production of trade schools, or what's the plan there?
Well, any good congressional candidate brings money back from DC from the federal taxes that people pay. And right now, 35 cents of every dollar is going to DC. And I think people are frustrated because what are they getting for that 35 cents of federal income tax? What we're getting is typically a lot of money being sent overseas. And it's really insulting when it's for gender studies, basket weaving, or arts programs in Timbuktu. So what I
Right.
want to do as an advocate of Congressional District 32 is to make sure that I, like as a businessman and advocating for my people, my clients, in this case, it's our citizens, to be able to bring back federal dollars that are squandered in other areas that we're not getting tax value for, bring them back, and let's use that to partner with educational facilities and put a point of emphasis on tech and vocational type programs so that we can become a leader in Texas and we are not at the mercy of having to bring in foreign labor and
Right.
further then dilute our culture here in Texas. And so this solution is not only going to bring good jobs, it's also going to bring reliable labor to people that are probably tired of talking to folks in a secondary to third language. And we're going to also empower our citizens to be independent where we have workers here. What I really want to do is return to common sense and go back to the post-World War II model, which made America the superpower that we became.
Well, music to my ears. I'm sure it'd be music to the folks in Texas. You talk about the foreign influence. Texas is being overrun by mosques and Muslim communities. They really believe that Sharia law is the law of the land, and they intend to fully deploy that here should they get control of our country. Where are you with what I would consider a Muslim invasion in Texas?
Well, where I am is number one, categorically, without any hesitancy, the Constitution is the only law of the land, and anything other than the Constitution, you can take it and wrap it up real tight and throw it in the wastebasket. It's trash, and it's not gonna play here. We follow the Constitution here in America, at least we should, and certainly in Texas we do. Number two, where I am is I blew the whistle with a young boy, a 10th grader over at Wiley ISD, which is just up the way from where I live in Rockwall County a few weeks ago. This woke principal at Wiley is denying and gaslighting that she knew what was going on in her own school, and they were handing out Qurans with a big old table and all the different type garments that Islam wear to try to convert and indoctrinate the students. So our own educational systems here in North Texas are being used to weaponize and indoctrinate our own kids. That happened, and that's a big deal. I called the mayor. We made a lot of noise. We went on social media. It was over millions of views on this when we broke this at 8:30 p.m. on a Monday. When
Wow.
this boy came to one of my staffers and said, "Here's what happened," and he said, he asked his parents, "Would you like to get this out? Do you want to blow the whistle?" And the father said, "Yes, this is the right thing to do." We did it, and
Right.
and it's about bringing awareness, and we have got to make an example of this, or this type of wokeness is going to continue to travel as wokeness does. It's a disease. It's a infestation of locusts that strip cornfields with ideology, and we have it here in Texas. And if we lose Texas, we lose America.
That's exactly right. If we lose Texas, we lose America. You've got a heated governor's race. I know this. I'm feeling a little awkward asking this, but I'm going to because Governor Greg Abbott has now called in reinforcements. We are looming on a war in the Middle East. 1/3 of our military is over there right now. And President Trump is leaving the battle station to head to Texas to stump for Greg Abbott because it appears Doc Pete Chambers, a retired 39-year Lieutenant Colonel Green Beret flight surgeon who has served up until recently during COVID, was dismissed for his duty on the border of commanding a battalion of 1,000 reservists National Guard, Texas National Guard down on the border because he was giving informed consent regarding the COVID shot. And he was very effective in Operation Lone Star. So where are you with, that happening right now? And if you don't mind me asking, do you lean one way or the other in your support of either candidate at this point?
At this point, I no longer lean. I'm all in on Doc Chambers. I officially endorsed Doc Chambers yesterday, and he endorsed me as a congressional candidate because it's time that we stop the political machine and the bull and the bunk that's going on. Listen, it's as simple, Ann. Texas needs to be number one in football, not Moss. This happened under the watch of Greg Abbott.
Good point.
And as they say in the poem, "Oh, Captain, my Captain, where is the captain of our ship?" And I'm calling for accountability. I don't care how big Greg Abbott's war chest is. I don't care how many endorsements he tries to use in order to have cronyisms, using endorsements to get people to dance like dogs and pander for these endorsements. What I'm talking about is being an advocate for the people. The reality is, when the rubber hits the road, we have more mosques in Texas than any state in America.
That's
If you
right.
like that, I liked Greg Abbott for a long time. He did two things that I find to be poor leadership. And when you have poor leadership in the NFL, you get fired. When you have poor leadership in corporations, the CEO gets fired. When you have poor leadership in politics, generally people try to cover for their friends, and the political machine goes to bat, and it's
That's right.
cronyism, endorsements, and all this. So here's the thing. When he bussed in people, and I thought it was great at the time because I was fooled with the narrative, and I thought, ha ha, blue cities, you get a taste of your own medicine.
Right.
That was wrong. He acted as a connecting flight to further embed the folks in the cities into America. These people now have to spend billions of dollars with ICE. We have all this roundup going on. It's a disaster because Greg Abbott bussed them in further. They should have been rounded up. They should have been sent back. And we should have had a strong border. And to bust them in my mind now, whether that was intentional or not, was an act of terrorism or treason to further embed and aid illegal immigrants and to allow for them to have a connecting flight to go into woke blue cities. That's
Right.
poor leadership, Governor Abbott. And because of that, I am supporting Pete Chambers because at the end of the day, we need accountability.
We do need accountability. Speaking of which, let's talk about national security. This is a big hot button on your website, and I'm just curious as to what you think with respect to the actual national security that has been, I would say, decimated under the previous administration. How do you intend to improve the national security as a member of the U.S. Congress from Texas?
Well, I mean, until I get in there and we can actually unwind what's really going on, I'll tell you the deep state is so insidious. They're listening to everything on our phones and monitoring us. I'll tell you this, if Facebook knows, based on us having casual conversations at dinner and then them having an app to market to us, can you imagine our surveillance in this country right now? There's a thing that a candidate that I ran against in a prior election that was a deciding vote on FISA. FISA allows for federal surveillance of its citizens. And there's a group that's called Planter that's run by Peter Thiel, who's a surveillance guy, guru. And this is going to be spreading like wildfire, where everything we say and do is going to be monitored. So if you think it only happens in China, think again. We are animals that live in a fake free society like animals in a zoo. We're in a cage. Right. We just don't see it. However, we're in a comfortable cage right now because we have the creature comforts. If we get to a system where technology diverts, where we are off the monetary cash system and we go to a digital system, I tell you what, between electricity and currency, we are under the big thumb of corporate big tech. Government uses corporate big tech as a go-between to be able to have a club, to be able to control its people, to be able to color outside the lines of the Constitution. That's where we are right now. This needs to be decided in our primary elections. So
let's talk about the public-private partnership, because that's essentially what you're discussing. You're talking about agency government that leverages government agencies and their relationships with public corporations to do exactly what you're saying, be the big brother while giving the federal government arm's length. In fact, really no direct connection to that corporation, like we have learned with censorship through Facebook and Twitter and all the social media platforms out there. How do you intend to influence that? There's been many who tried, for instance, Jason Fick and the Fick versus Facebook lawsuit that went back to the Supreme Court. Myself, General Flynn, and some others all submitted amicus briefs with multiple signers on these amicus briefs. And the case for the third time that went back, the Supreme Court still wouldn't hear it. They just won't hear the constitutional challenge anymore. So how do we combat this?
Well, I'm running for office. That's my attempt, because I believe it has to be done through nonviolent measures and through the proper electoral process. Now, am I going to be embraced? No, I'm being resisted every step of the way. We have a candidate that is running against me. They don't want to see me win. even though I think I'd be a very strong candidate because I started a business from nothing and did billions of dollars of sales, was able to make a lot of positive changes. You have to be right your whole life to be able to get to that point. And it's time somebody's right for the American people. Now, that said, I have a candidate who lives, get a load of this. He lost a state race, never held office. He lost a state race he probably should have won to Brett Hagenboo. Then turned around and sued Brett Hagenboo because he was sore about the loss and said Brett Hagenboo didn't live in the district. He lost that lawsuit. Now he is the main candidate that has all these deep state endorsements that lives about almost 2 hours, if you catch a little traffic, away from our district. And let me repeat that. He lives almost 2 hours. It's almost a 4-hour round trip for him to come from his home into our district to represent us. And this is a guy that has never done anything other than be a lawyer and never held any political office, but yet he's the darling who has received just under $1.1 million of dark money. Kind of a big deal, because if you get a guy like this elected, your next congressman is going to be Congressman Dark Money, because everybody knows if you have a dog and you have somebody feed the dog, pretty soon the person that feeds the dog is who the dog runs to. Politicians are no different. And if they're being fed by dark money, that's why folks say, well, I had such high hopes for this candidate. I thought they're going to be great, but DC changed them. No, DC didn't change them. They were already selected. You've been duped because it's Hollywood in politics. Right. And that is not just isolated in this race. Take a look at Jace Yarborough. That's who he is. Take a look at Del Cruz. He's another one in Texas. These open seats have the same playbook to run a couple of guys that have the same endorsements, that drop at the same time, that have the same support from Strong PAC. And Strong PAC, its filing number is C009-37094, FEC number C009-37094. This is what is deciding our elections. It's putting lipstick on pigs, Hollywood for politicians. People think, hey, this is an American First guy. American First guy on paper, looks great on paper, but being fed by dark money, we have no idea who is behind the dark money. I've asked him several times. He's been stonewalling. He refuses to give us the sources of his money and just wants to say it's my endorsements. Well, I'll tell you, this guy's the biggest name dropper in the world. If it was his endorsements giving him the money, he'd be putting it on a banner, and saying, hey, I got a conservative endorsement and I got conservative money. You don't usually hide your money unless there's a problem on where it's coming from. Right. Interesting. So since you're talking about dark money and just money in general, where are you with accepting lobbyist money? Let's say, I don't know, AIPAC, for instance? No, not accepting it. Are you accepting any big corporate donors' money? Big companies? No, because then I'm beholden to them. And for me to be effective and do the things that I want to do, it's important that I don't have those strings attached. Listen, I'm not a cheap person to buy off, right? I'm not going to take these things and these guys that have 2 nickels to rub together and they can give them, a few $100,000, and now you have a chess piece that you can play in the political machine. That's what the political machine wants, and those are the people that are going to get endorsed. Okay. I'm not, by all the DC. Now I'm proud to have over 100 grassroots endorsements. I'm proud to be endorsed by Doc Pete Chambers. I'm proud to be endorsed by Brett Hagenboo, who ran against this deep state candidate. People that know what's going on. I have a lot of endorsements, but people that are, we'll leave it at that. People that are part of the issue are, happy to participate, I guess would be maybe a good way to put it. Or they don't know. They didn't do their homework. And again, sometimes people that look really good on paper, they don't do their due diligence and really pull things back to get to the level that I have and our team has to be able to fully understand the situation. And I think probably that's mainly it. And they're duped. And by the time people find out, they're in office and it's too late. So I think awareness for the voter and awareness for some of these endorsement folks go hand in hand. Good advice is your best insurance, and knowledge is power. And if you don't have a full understanding of the money behind a candidate, then who are you really voting for? You're voting for the money that made the candidate.
So I think this is interesting. We're talking about who are you really voting for? I love this on your website, your legacy of service. Different battlefields with the same unwavering commitment to protecting America and the values we hold dear. Talk to us about your three generations and one calling. What does all this mean to the public?
Yeah. So I had two grandfathers that fought in World War II that enlisted and voluntarily went to serve our country. And so what we have is we have a battle for freedom. In the words of Ronald Reagan, we are one generation away from losing freedom. Now that picture of my grandfather right there, who spent almost 5 years of his life serving our country, he fought in 23 major battles. He was one of the ones to cross the beaches of Normandy, awarded a Silver Star. And of 2,000 men in his battalion, he was one of 9 to live. And so if you think of it, he saw 1,991 men around him die.
Wow.
He was very inspirational for me personally growing up, because this is a man that fought for freedom. He told me about some of the battles later when he got a little older. My other grandfather was a architect and engineer that built the bridges in Europe that my other grandfather was crossing and was going across in order to liberate France and for us to be able to free and secure freedom in the European theater. So those legacies to me are what so many individuals in America stood for. And when we have a dark money, deep state type arrangement, it's very disappointing. And then we have a picture right there of my father, who served 25 years as a police officer. He was a county police officer, and he also served as a constable fighting, different aspects of crime. I know he also put out a fire one time in a burning building and was awarded a citation because the building would have went into the burning building. He was a volunteer fireman earlier in his life. And as a volunteer fireman, he had the skills to be able to actually save the building. And I think there may have been some animals and different valuable aspects in that building that were saved as a result of him going into the building with a extinguisher and being able to put out the fire before it was unmanageable. And so, I have several generations of leadership in my family that have served, and my way of serving is to do something in a little bit of a different vein, but to go to DC to combat the aspects that are holding our freedom back as well, and fight for America and fight for Texas.
Yeah.
We're being sold out before the game has even started. And it's time, like I said earlier, it's time that somebody does right by the American people. And, I'm very fortunate. I started off with no money, but I'm in the point where I'm realizing that physical possessions are not something I really want to chase. What I want to chase is a name that my kids can be strong and feel good and stand on. And when my kids get a little older and they say, your dad served us well, to me, that's the one thing that I can't buy with physical possessions. That's something we have to earn. And to me, some of the things that you earn mean much more than anything else. And if somebody doesn't go serve and get this thing done, we're going to be in the same death spiral. And as a father of 2 kids, what kind of a future are they going to have? And so I'm really not excited about doing some of the things, but just like my grandfathers that went to war, who I'm sure were also not excited about doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
There's things, Anne, that need to be done.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yesterday morning, my son was doing Bible study with a friend of ours in the house, and we were having this very conversation about worldly possessions. And really, at the end of the day, you don't own anything. There's never a U-Haul attached to a hearse at the end of life. So it's okay to achieve and to accumulate if that's what makes you happy on some level. But at the end of the day, that's not what's going to be left on your epitaph, on your tombstone. And a life of service is that. And, I believe God expects us to serve, right? He is serving us. His son died for our sins. And so here we are. And this is my service. I have children in the military, so I get it. And I appreciate where you're coming from. I think it's really a beautiful, beautiful, gesture that you're doing to engage in this fashion and try and support your neighbors. It's going to take a lot of money, and it's also going to take some very serious fiscal responsibility, something you talk about. Our government spending is way out of control, and you are going to fight for a balanced budget. When you walk into Congress day one, tell me about the people that you think you can align with. Number 2, what committees would you get on in order to achieve fiscal responsibility and go for a balanced budget?
Well, first of all, I think we need to have, I'm interested in aligning against Sharia law and joining that caucus. So we stopped the infiltration of another set of laws here that's outside of our Constitution. And, people say, well, you may be against an ethnic group. No, that's not it at all. I'm against Sharia law. We have only one law of the land. That's the Constitution. Anything outside the Constitution is not permitted here in this country. And we're going to fight that tooth and nail. Number two, the Freedom Caucus, I think, may be another opportunity for us to do some things as well. But maybe we need to form an entirely new committee, and that's a committee looking at dark money. Maybe some people in Congress need to actually take a look and say, until, forget term limits. Everybody's flapping their gums. I'm so tired of hearing about the public talk about term. You want to fix term limits? Fix dark money, because dark money is why it's the root of why you have term limit discussion, because dark money is what gets everybody elected, because the powers to be can put unlimited funds. Think about the playing field. Average candidates, they got to put in their $3,500 max contribution. They got to list it. They got to report it. And you're catching little minnows. $3,500 sounds like a lot of money, but when a PAC can dump in $1 million or $2 million from one donor, it is absolutely like shooting a pistol against somebody that has a bazooka. It is, and this is the reason why people are thinking about term limits. But you know what we really need more than term limits is campaign finance reform. Every dollar given to every person needs to be accounted for. Transparency. This dark money in these super PACs is a miscarriage of justice. And I demand that we have a discussion about campaign finance reform in this country, where every dollar comes in that is known to the public, so we know who's electing what person. And until that happens, we're going to live in the world of a kangaroo court and a scam and a sham of a government. And we're going to cry in our little sleep about term limits, because 90% of elected officials get reelected, because the system is set up for that to be that way. And we need to change it. We need to change it. We need to make it transparent. If you're a good person that's in office, maybe you shouldn't have term limits. But if you're a bad one that's being funded with dark money, you're going to remain in office. And so that's where I am pivoting and saying, forget about the term limits. Let's look at the dark money.
That's a very interesting angle of attack. And, President Trump weaponized trade through peace through trade, essentially in his first term, doing the country to country trade deals. And that really did solve peace. You look at what the BRICS nations are doing. They've got a stable, sound basket of money. There's their own basket of currencies backed by gold. They're settling all their trade imbalances with gold payments to one another. And, they're living peacefully. I think it's a page, we could take a page out of their book when it comes to the financial stability. Where are you in terms of whether the United States should go back to some sort of gold-backed dollar currency, whatever, versus being the Bitcoin capital of the world? What sits better with you?
Well, it has to either go back onto the gold standard, or we have to look at being backed on a Bitcoin or some sort of cryptocurrency standard. But right now it's completely unacceptable. When people don't understand what happened during COVID, when the definition of inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. Our economy was basically totally paused, except for a few aspects. And what did they do? They pumped in billions and billions of dollars. It was like lighting a match. We had inflation go bananas. And then they doubled down and sent 300 some billion to Ukraine. And just to give our viewers some sort of context, because we're inoculated on values. If you took the Dallas Cowboys and every other remaining 31 NFL franchises, their stadiums, their TV deals, all of their value, and it's been around for 100 years, the NFL has taken 100 years to create that value, you would have to multiply that times 2.5 times to equate what we did and sent to Ukraine and inject it into our global monetary system.
Right.
So the fact that our government can print money unchecked is why we have hamburgers that went from $12 to $22. It's why senior citizens can't afford their property taxes, because the cost of living. It's why property taxes and other expenses have gone up for people, because now the cost of materials in order to repair the roads have also gone up. So it's a vicious cycle. I've talked to a local county commissioner. Roads that used to cost $4 million per mile now cost between $18 to $22 million a mile for a 4-way highway here in Texas.
It's
So
ridiculous.
the inflation of what has been caused based on our reckless spending and poor fiscal management has been a silent tax. Senior citizens that have been investing into the system for their entire lives have found that a third of their value of their investments have been wiped out on buying power due to our fiscal policy. So we cannot allow for that type of thing to exist. We have to be backed on something. I like gold. Gold is great, but I'm open to cryptocurrency and Bitcoin too, but with never the idea that we ever lose cash entirely out of our system, because we have to have multiple different ways to be able to purchase goods in case we ever have a electronic meltdown. We can never be a cashless society, but I do think our Fed needs to be based on something, because otherwise we're printing money, and money, we know the stories from World War II. The money is as good as what it's printed on. Nothing. If they print it.
I think the toilet paper costs more than the dollar bill these days.
Yeah.
So if you run out of toilet paper, I'm suggesting you might want to use your cash. But anyhow, I digress. Yeah. You talked about the old folks that are, own their homes free and clear. They can't afford the property taxes because the cost of living has gone up so much. If you're just feeding themselves is exorbitant. What about healthcare? You say on your website, healthcare decisions should be made between patients and doctors, not government bureaucrats, and that you support competitive markets, lower costs, and preserving quality care for Texans. What does that look like? Is Texas going to be a standalone for healthcare for its citizens, or is it going to be integrated into some kind of a national system? What are you thinking here?
Well, I don't think, first of all, any candidate has magic beans in their back pocket that can single-handedly change the healthcare system. Now, that said, we have a terrible Obama system that has been in place, but the Republicans to date have not done anything to be able to come up with anything better, and it's an opportunity cost. The Republican Party needs to always be the party of business solutions and leadership. So I think that we need to work together as a party, as a group, to come up with something that can show the public that we have a solution better than Obamacare. And until we can't, the Democrats are always going to be able to say, well, what plan do you have? Now, specifically to our district, rural healthcare right now is getting absolutely gutted. People in the rural areas are once again the second, the stepchild of our country, where it's unfair because the resources aren't there, and the rural hospitals don't have the quality, they don't have the money, and a lot of people in our district are feeling like they're on an island. We need to be able to have. I mean, we're supposedly the richest nation in the world, or the best nation in the world. I'm not sure about that when I look at our balance sheets with the way we've been spending, but we got to act like it, and we got to pivot to have good health care. Number one, it's a multi-prong approach. We have to, Robert F. Kennedy is right. We have to get healthy again. We got to get the dyes. We got to get the stuff that they put in our foods for the last 30 years. We got to get it out of it. They know what it is. We got to stop geoengineering our foods. Bill Gates wants us to eat lab-grown meat and bugs. I'm sorry. He'd make a really good villain in a James Bond movie, except he'd be a little too dorky that they probably wouldn't cast him. But nonetheless, the problem is that we need to have real solutions where farms are strong. We don't have toxins in our food. I see kids in my kids' class, and they're already looking unhealthy at age 13. Can you imagine the toll on our healthcare costs? It's a puzzle piece where other pieces are connected. We got to eat healthy again. We got to get the toxins out of our food, and we need to get our kids healthy again to cut the costs, because we're going to bury our healthcare costs if we got kids on dialysis at age, 17. So we got to get healthy. We have to also, at the same time, we also have to have good healthcare in place. And more importantly, always and immediately, individual healthcare rights need to be respected. Now, if somebody gave me the choice between taking a COVID shot or taking a shot class of COVID-19, I would take the COVID-19, because I'm going to tell you right now, when they came out and said that there was absolutely no side effects on this vaccine, and every single pharmaceutical commercial, and we see them, we're lambasted with them, every single pharmaceutical commercial rolls, and those things have been in development, phase 1, phase 2. They've done the placebo, they've done all the different trials for sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 years, and they have side effects that are known. For anybody to say that there was no side effects from the COVID shot is utter irresponsible, reckless, and flat out a lie to the American public. Anthony Fauci Anthony Fauci has more blood on his hands than Adolf Hitler. If people with Trump derangement syndrome want to start bashing Trump, they shouldn't call him Hitler. They should call him Fauci, because Fauci has committed more crimes against this world than any single person that I'm aware of by irresponsibly not being honest with the side effects of COVID-19 shots. And now we're in a situation where the feathers are out of the pillow and we're not quite sure what the damage is going to be, but to deny that there's damage is also dishonest.
Yeah, I would agree with you on what you're on how you're positioning COVID and Fauci. There's zero accountability coming out of the administration, and it's frustrating for the American people. We need to give the District of Corruption an enema, I say, and just really deep six the entire 435 members of Congress and probably every one of the senators, and get a do-over and put people in like yourself that want to actually serve the public honorably, with integrity, and do what's in the best interest of the economy, the healthcare, law and order, our Constitution, et cetera. We're just not seeing it right now. So it's truly going to be an uphill battle. I'm going to give you the last word here. I want you to, take a minute, collect yourself, and give your elevator pitch to your district in Texas, and give them the reasons why they need to be motivated to go to the polls and vote for you, Paul Bondar, for Congress.
Well, I think if you just look at facts and not what people say, I've always said that in business, you have to look at what's going on around you and look at the signs and look at the actions, not on just what's being said. Now, I'm going to say the things that can be verified. The decision right here for this race is very clear. You got a guy that sued a guy that lived, for not living in the district, that's running close to 2 hours from this district at times with traffic, that has been backed by $1 million+ of dark money that nobody knows where this dark money is coming from. If anybody thinks that that's going to be a good representative for them, how can somebody who lives out of the district represent you when they can't vote for themselves? That's an absentee landlord. And last I checked, every absentee landlord does not have a good property. And Congressional District 32 is way too important to have an absentee landlord. I'm in the district. I live here. I've been here for many, many years. I've gone through COVID here. I know what it's like to live in this district, drive the roads, feel the traffic. And what's more important is my family's here. And so it's good for me. We're good for you and your family is good for me and my family. But I think all too often, at least folks should be outraged if they're paying attention. We have a level of hypocrisy that exists in this country where folks in Washington, D.C. can do one thing for themselves, but they expect Americans to play under a different set of rules. It's worse under the Democrat Party, but it's also happening now under the Republican Party. And sometimes it's at the end of the day, we as Americans, we have to pick and choose who's going to be our representative. If you want somebody that's going to be fed by dark money, they're going to serve that dark money. If you want somebody that's not encumbered by dark money, that's running to serve you, that lives here with you, that is the main issue. Now, as far as where I'm at, I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-life. I want to close the border. I believe that we have to have water rights in this district. I'm pro-property rights. I'm against big development. I'm really looking to be able to bring tax dollars back for our district and to make our lives better here. I want to lessen the burden of people to have to pay less taxes, because we're going to utilize the taxes we have. We can't afford to pay more taxes, but it's time we have a businessman that's put in position, who has built things and solved things and knows how to read a budget and will not take a paycheck unless the budget, our federal budget, is passed. And as a business owner, I never took a paycheck unless I had my finances in order. And again, it goes to hypocrisy. How can people in Congress pay themselves and take a paycheck when we don't have a budget passed for the people here? And every month, people are at the kitchen table trying to make ends meet and figure out which bills they're going to pay and try to find value in their money when Congress doesn't find value in yours. So really, those are some of the main issues. There's a lot more. You got to vote your heart. You got to vote for who you believe in. It's no different in business. Either you think the guy that's selling you something is full of crap and they're going to just try to sell you to make a sale, or you believe the person is telling you the truth. And then if that's the case, you go all in, hook your wagon that person and say, this is somebody that's going to represent me and actually work for me, not themselves.
Well, Paul Bondar, you've got my vote. If I lived in Texas, I would certainly vote for you. I'm glad that Doc Pete Chambers and you have hitched wagons to one another and have gotten on the mutual endorsement, because I think the Texas grassroots is on fire right now. And the establishment doesn't realize that that fire is going to burn them down, because the people are standing up, and I'm glad to see it. So God bless you in this race. How can folks support you, Paul?
Well, I'd like for them to be aware of my website at www.electbondar.com. I have a donation button there. If people want to give $25, $10, $50, whatever they're comfortable giving, $500. If you want to fight for freedom, you have to help me fight for it, because I am going up against dark money. And we do have a slight edge in this race, but let's not leave it in the hands of last minute shenanigans. And let's also have great voter turnout, right? We need people to get up off their couch. You need to vote for the candidate that you believe is not in bed with dark money and part of the establishment, and really do your research on their financial statements, because that is going to be key. But please go to my website, go to my social media. You can post on my social media. I also have town halls regularly. If you get a phone call that says political call, it's because I'm doing an unscripted deal where people can get online on a phone and they can ask me any questions. Ask me anything.
That's brilliant.
And I'm not screening them. I'm not pre-recording it. It's any question that comes in, as long as it's not some, nut that wants to talk about something not germane to our election or our country. We're going to answer the tough questions, because you know what, Ann? Too many of our political folks are puppets and cowards that hide behind scripts and consultants.
That's right.
And if you really want answers and you want something done, you have to have the spine and the courage to stand up to people and answer their questions. And if you can't answer their questions, it probably means that you're not the right guy to go represent them, because you don't have the solutions.
That's right. Well, certainly glad to get to make your acquaintance. It's a pleasure to know you. And I'm going to be following this race, because, Texas is in the top 8 economies of the world, and we need Texas to succeed, just like we need America to succeed. But Texas is a bellwether economy for our country. And since California is dragging us down and New York is dragging us down, we need Texas and Florida to lift us up. So God bless you, Paul. Thank you so much for stopping by. And I appreciate everything you're doing, and good luck out there.
Thank you, Ann. I appreciate you. God bless. And thank you to all our viewers. Thank you.
You bet. Well, America, you heard it. We don't need any more career politicians. We need leaders like Paul Bondar. He understands what hard work is. He understands who he answers to. It's you, the people, the Texans. He doesn't answer to the establishment. And who is actually going to defend our freedoms without compromise? Well, Paul Bondar certainly seems like he wants to step into that ring. He doesn't, he's not taking dark money. He's not taking APAC money. He's not taking big corporate sponsor money. No, he's one of the people, and he's stepping forward because Texas deserves representation grounded in faith, family, and fearless conviction. How refreshing. That's right. His will to fight to secure your borders, protect all of our constitutional rights, strengthen our economy, and restore accountability in Washington. Yet another refreshing campaign idea. I love the fact he opened up and talked about dark money. I think that's critical. We don't give that enough attention. I believe Paul Bondar's campaign is about more than one election. It's about preserving the future of our children and defending the principles that made this nation great. So you guys have a choice in Texas. You can choose Paul Bondar. You can go with Doc Pete Chambers. And together, you guys can help us take our country back. So Texas, listen up. This is for you. Step into the ring. Support this man. And let's save America. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
I'm Paul Bondar, your next congressman. I'm sick of the political parasites stealing our money. I'm disgusted with the politicians stonewalling the Epstein files and not protecting kids. Frustrated with dark money stealing our elections. Insulted carpetbaggers think they can come into our district to represent us when they can't even vote for themselves. We need to protect Texas values in North Texas. We need someone to remove the globalist boot off the conservative throat of free speech. Elect a leader and not a puppet. Elect Paul Bondar.
I'm Paul Bondar, and I approve this message.
Hi, I'm Ann Vandersteel. I want to talk to you a little bit about your health. Part of my daily routine is to get up in the morning and get a little exercise on. If I have time for a mile or 7, doesn't matter. I get out the door every single day. It's important to get my body moving and get that oxygen flowing through my brains. What is also equally important is what I put in my body after I exercise. I rely on Vandersteelhealth.com, where I have a delicious selection of superfoods and other supplements. But first and foremost for me are my superfoods. I have a delicious shake every single day. It is organic, all made in the United States of America, non-GMO, never processed before, dehydrated superfoods. And when they reconstitute with water, milk, or whatever juice you like, it makes a delicious, healthy, plant-based protein supplement. And I say supplement because, frankly, I use this as a meal replacement. This is what's helped me lose the last 20 pounds of COVID. I'm back down to my fighting college weight, fitting in my college clothes, and feeling better than ever. So go to Vandersteelhealth.com and get your delicious superfoods. Get on the transformation program with us. It's a 30-day kickoff, and it will get your day starting out great. And watch the weight just fall off. Watch the energy increase, the brain fog lift, and of course the ancillary benefits in your hair, skin, and nails. All these things, you are what you eat. Remember that. Go to Vandersteelhealth.com.